I have been with Michael for the last 8 years. We got engaged 1.5 years ago and decided to get married once my master's degree was done. Michael has a daughter, 12, who lives across the country. I found out I was pregnant 4 to 5 months ago. When I told Michael, he looked shocked. I suggested we postpone the wedding, but he said no. In fact, let's have the wedding earlier. We can have a small courthouse wedding, and once the baby is born, we will have a nice party. I reluctantly agreed. We set a date. I got a nice dress, and my friend did my hair and makeup. I showed up and saw that Michael didn't bother wearing a clean shirt. He wore his old jeans, didn't shave or shower, and wore his old t-shirt. I asked him if he really wanted to marry me. He said yes. Let's go. Hurry up. After the ceremony, we went for lunch, and he told me his daughter is moving in with us, so it's best to cancel our honeymoon/baby moon that was supposed to be in September. I was shocked and asked why. He said he can't just abandon his kid for a week. Ella is moving across the country. Everything is new to her. We need to bond with her. Get over yourself. You are going to be a mom. How about a little empathy? I just stayed quiet. He went back to work, and I went back to my place to pack my stuff alone because I was officially moving in with him. Now that Ella has moved in, I feel completely unseen. He spends all his free time doing stuff with her, and I'm not invited. He says his kid has been through a lot, and he needs to bond with her. I pretty much spend all my time alone, either at school or at my part-time job. I go to all my baby appointments alone. Today, he told me he is taking her to Disneyland because September is her birthday. I feel so petty, but September was supposed to be our honeymoon. I asked, and I guess I'm not invited to the trip, right? He said you are always invited, but this time I want it to be me and her only. It's the first time I get to be with her on her birthday. I just left for school and cried. Why is he punishing me for getting pregnant? Things were great before, and all of a sudden, I don't even exist anymore. Am I wrong for resenting my husband? Am I too needy and unreasonable? Top comments. Somebody said, husband? You mean the guy you quickly married in court who didn't bother to wear a clean shirt? Husband. Either you start setting your boundaries in this relationship now, or you will be a doormat forever. Did you know his daughter will be living with you? Did you agree to that? Were it to me, I'd file for a divorce. Well, wouldn't get married like this in the first place, but what's done is done, and would only do a proper do-over if he persuaded me well enough with his care. Otherwise, why be responsible for 3 kids? Original poster replied, no, I had no clue. He just informed me during the lunch. Somebody said, babe, that is not how a loving husband would approach such a topic. And his comments on top of that? Jesus. Seems like he thinks that now that you're married and pregnant, there is no way you'll leave, and he can treat you however. That is not right. You deserve better. There are a million red flags in this post. Make sure your support system is tight. Talk to people about possibly staying with them. Put money to the side, and then, only when you have a plan, sit him down and tell him that if things don't change, you're gone. Somebody said, how is that not something he felt needed to be discussed with you first? I mean, you're married. He can't just make unilateral decisions like that. He's also been sitting in this for days, maybe weeks, before he so graciously told you, right after you fell in the marriage trap. This guy sucks. I'm sorry to say that, but get an annulment and raise the baby on your own. He clearly doesn't see you as an equal. Original poster replied, yes. Apparently he had been discussing this with Ella's mom for weeks about this. Nope, I wasn't even aware. Husband posts. I the a-hole for prioritizing my kid over my new wife. 1 day later. My wife took it upon herself to write her side yesterday. She left to stay with her coworker to clear her mind before making any decisions. Since then, many of my friends have read her post, contacted me, and called me a monster. Here is my side, and I'm genuinely wondering if I'm the bad guy here. I have been with my wife for the last 8 years. She got pregnant while we were engaged. I suggested having a small courthouse wedding and then a nice party when the baby was born. I have a daughter from a previous relationship. When her mother was pregnant, she left to stay with her parents across the country. I only met her maybe once a year. I was never involved in her life. Before our courthouse wedding, Her mother messaged me that my daughter was moving in with me because she was pregnant and thought Ella, my daughter, should be with me. When I told my wife after our wedding, she didn't say anything. I told her that I was postponing our honeymoon since I couldn't leave my girl, who had just moved in and was feeling abandoned, just to go on some trip. My wife didn't say anything. Since Ella moved in, I have tried my best to make her feel welcome. I take her to extracurricular activities, she sees a therapist that I take her to, and I take her fishing with me. My wife has not only been very distant, but also decided not to communicate with either of us. She hasn't put any effort into connecting with my daughter. They speak maybe a few words a day. My wife is always quiet, which makes things awkward. On top of that, she is jealous of my daughter and expects me to baby her because she is pregnant. She suggests crashing. I say no each time in any father-daughter activity without realizing my kid has been through so much. She expects me to come to all her baby appointments. I explain that I'm working full-time and doing all these extracurricular activities with Ella. Plus, she can just show me the ultrasound pictures later. It's not like there is anything I can do. My presence is not necessary for these appointments. Now here is the thing. Am I in butthole for trying to be there for my child, for putting my child first, for expecting my wife to be an adult and not expect me to baby her? She is using her pregnancy to be emotional and guilt-trip me because she is jealous of a literal child. Comments: somebody said, "You're the whole, dude." Making this judgment without reading your wife's post. I get that your daughter got dumped on you and you're trying to make sure she's okay. Guess what? She got dumped on your wife as well. And instead of trying to integrate the family, you're freezing your wife out. She's quiet and distant because you've isolated her from your little daddy-daughter bubble. On top of this, she's pregnant. Of course, she expects you to come to the baby appointments. She's crying out for you to demonstrate any kind of love or affection for her and your second child. So yeah, without knowing anything she said in her post, I can see why your friends are calling you out on your crap. You suck. Somebody said, yes, you're the a-hole. Competent, irrespective of anything your wife posted yesterday, you're the a-hole. Not for putting your child first as you manipulatively try to frame it, but for myriad other reasons. You're the a-hole for not telling your wife prior to the ceremony that your daughter was coming to live with you. In fact, you're the a-hole for agreeing to that without talking to your fiancé at the time first. You're the a-hole for saying no to your wife crashing your father-daughter activities and then claiming your wife has made no effort to connect with your daughter. You're the a-hole for creating this my wife and my daughter domestic situation and making no effort to actually blend the two parts of your life together. You're the a-hole for acting as though attending prenatal appointments is irrelevant if you can't do anything. It's about being present, making her feel like she matters, showing her that she's not in this alone. It's not as though you've raised a child together. She has no way to know how involved or present you'll be once the baby is born. You need to show her that the unborn child is also important to you. By the way, you might even ask her or your daughter how either would feel about her attending. If neither are massively uncomfortable with it, his would not be a bad thing for an adolescent girl to experience firsthand. You're the a-hole for calling the things that matter to your wife silly little things, or for acting like showing her extra care while she is literally growing a human inside her body is babying her. Honestly, you sound like a selfish, inconsiderate prick all around. The way you're behaving towards your wife is not love. Love is putting another person's needs before your own. Try doing that. Another commenter: you're the a-hole. Your wife is expecting your child. You have made no effort to make her feel special or wanted. You are putting your daughter's needs, understandable, over your wife's, who is also carrying your child, needs. Taking her to one of your father-daughter outings isn't going to end you. Rather, it will help your daughter and wife bond. Frankly, your attitude about your wife wanting you at her medical appointments and everything in between is just concerning. You are making no effort to make your wife comfortable and, more importantly, at peace. Grow up and act like a husband for once too. Original poster replied, I married her, right away. Most men walk away. Update. 1 day later, I haven't slept all night. It's 7 a.m. in Toronto now, and I'm a mess. I thought I'd give you an update. Some of you called me a troll because you couldn't believe what an insensitive jackass I was. Well, you weren't wrong. Here's the update. My wife texted me yesterday saying she found a new place and is planning to talk to a lawyer soon. She asked when she could come by to pack her stuff. I was floored. I thought she was kidding or trying to scare me. But she wasn't. She was very serious. She came over with her coworker Jen. I asked her if she could please stay and talk, then I'd give her a ride back to her coworker's place later. Her coworker gave me the dirtiest look and left. We talked for hours. I'm a monster and a crappy husband. She generally has anxiety, and pregnancy made it worse, and she's been dealing with it alone. Apparently, there was a scare during an ultrasound, and she had a full-blown panic attack. She said she was so lonely that the ultrasound tech and nurses had to help her out. Luckily, further testing showed that the baby is fine. I felt sick to my stomach, picturing her alone and having a panic attack. I asked her why she didn't tell me. She said she had asked me many times to come, but each time I either called it stupid or made fun of her for being a big baby. She said while she was waiting for the further testing results, she was so anxious that she was throwing up all the time. I lived with her, yet I was so full of myself, I didn't even notice. I begged her to come back. She said she can't at this time because of her mental health. I asked if I could come to the appointments from now on. She said, of course. We're going to see a marriage counselor as soon as possible. She said she'll only move back when the counselor says she's ready because, at this point, she's not. I asked if I could still take her out on date nights. She looked at me and asked if I was just doing this to expect coition afterward and trick her into coming back. I swore that I would drop her off at her place every time. No sleepovers and no expectations. Just dinners, talking, and doing activities like when we were dating. She smiled. She asked about my daughter, and I told her she misses you. She said, no, she doesn't. She doesn't even know me. I admitted she was right. I told her I messed up and that hopefully, when she's ready, she can join us on some outings. She said, yeah, maybe. I drove her back to her coworker. So folks, as Doug Ford says, to summarize, I stayed awake all night. I'm disgusted by my actions. So that's the update as of now. My wife has left me for now, and I'm skating on very thin ice. Hopefully, I'll have more positive updates soon. I admitted I was a selfish crap. I have been getting direct messages suggesting to end myself or hope my wife miscarry so she would be free. I'm going to stop replying top comments. I just caught up with the rest of the posts. And if this is a true story, she made the right decision and should divorce you. During those posts, you said nothing good about your wife. All you did was complain about her. You even went after education and degraded her career. You come off as the type of person who has no compassion or empathy or any real emotions. You fake them for what you want. You don't even think your wife needs you at doctor appointments or care enough about your future child to go. It's emotionless. You just string people along to do what you want. If you can't balance a daughter and a wife now, then you'll do an even worse job when her baby is born. Why should it be called your baby when you do nothing for your wife, who is currently carrying that baby? She made a big mistake allowing you to steamroll her into a quick marriage that you don't have respect for. I just hope that she doesn't fall into the trap of giving another chance, because we all know that people like you don't change. You'll fake change enough for a few months, and then once you feel you have her back again, you'll go right back to nonstop disrespecting her. That's a story as old as time. Biggest narcissist ever. That age gap too. Narcissists love that power imbalance. I'm looking forward to seeing this one circulate the internet. Podcasts, you still the a whole. You weren't the only one disgusted by what you wrote. The post and the responses that followed only had one thing in common. Me and I. My house, my expenses, my daughter, my rules, my this, my that. Never once did you talk about your wife in an equal partner sense of a way. Even though your wife knew about your daughter, you sprung her on her. Never once did you find it right to discuss with her first. Her life was going to be impacted by it too. She made every attempt to be close to your daughter, which was stonewalled by you. You dismissed your pregnant wife's concerns as being jealous and a baby competing with your daughter. The fact that you were so ignorant to your wife's pleas that you totally sent her into a downward spiral. Despite all of this, your wife is still willing to give you a chance. That right there tells you what an amazing person she is. I hope for your sake you have changed, because if you haven't, then God help you. Final update. Sorry for not posting after dinner. I met my wife for dinner, and she looked beautiful as always. She asked about my day, and I showed her my phone as the Reddit notifications kept coming in. She told me to just delete everything, saying these were some horrific, judgmental messages. She said she had read all my comments and was happy she deleted her account because it was affecting her mental health. She then told me about a weird coition dream she had, and I couldn't stop laughing. She asked me if I thought our baby would be a boy or a girl. I told her I didn't know much about pregnancy. She laughed and said, "True, I'm going to give you some of my books to read." I said thank you, and I will. She went over the list of expectations I made, explained some things, and then changed some stuff. I told her I really appreciated her feedback and that I knew it wasn't her job to help me. She looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me?" When I asked for her opinion, I told her I really liked it. It felt like the old you. I wasn't invisible anymore. She said that once we got married, she felt suffocated. She never felt like this was our home because I treated her like a house guest. She said it was never our home, it was mine, and she was just living there. She wasn't involved in any of the house decisions and never really unpacked because I liked the house the way it was. I told her she was right and that I was wrong for saying it was my house and making decisions for everyone. I apologized for making her feel suffocated. She said she has known me for 8 years and knows I can change back to the person I used to be, the person she fell in love with. I was embarrassed and quiet. She suggested I talk to a therapist about handling change in my life, acknowledging that the first pregnancy, my new position, and Ella had all been significant changes, but that I couldn't just focus on a few priorities and ignore the rest. She told me I completely ignored her and asked if I agreed. I said yes, 100%. I should have discussed Ella's move from the moment her mom texted, and I shouldn't have excluded her. She asked if I was still taking Ella to Disneyland. I said that aside from the obvious reason that I was a dumbass for excluding her, no. She then said she wanted to go back for 2 weeks to see her grandparents and friends back home, so I should pay for that, she asked me. She then looked at me and asked, "So what are we going to do for 2 weeks?" I really didn't have an answer. She said, "Want to take me on the honeymoon you never took me on?" I said, "If that's what you want, of course." She mentioned it would be the last week of September and the first week of October. Then she asked if I wanted her to come to take Ella shopping on Saturday. I told her this would be a giant favor for me because I don't know much about shopping for a preteen girl. I said, "Yes, thank you." After dinner, we were talking about movies, and she went on and on about movie theater popcorn. Then she felt embarrassed and said, "Sorry, I just really crave it." I laughed and said there was a theater close to her place, and we could stop by to buy some. Let's go. It was so cute because she devoured half the bag by the time we arrived at her place. She kissed me on the cheek and said she had a good night. I said I did too. Thank you. She asked if I could help her move to her new place, and I said yes, of course. She mentioned her job isn't paying enough, so she's thinking of getting a second job. I told her, "Please let me help you. You're pregnant, and it's very unfair to work 2 jobs. You only moved out because of the crap I put you through. You even said this was for your mental health. I don't want you to come back because you couldn't afford to live on your own. If you need your own space, then it's my job to help you." She said thank you. She also mentioned she booked marriage counseling for Tuesday and started seeing a therapist, a virtual session, who she really likes and who makes her happy. I told her thanks for the appointment and I'll pick her up. I'm glad she found a good therapist. I asked for a referral from my GP and hope I'll find a good one too. Anyway, eventually, we were done sitting in the car talking. She kissed me on the cheek again and then left. Top comments. "You still aren't puss." A massive one that. What is painful is your wife can't see through the toxic human that you are. Your wife is a saint. If she really has forgiven you, there are very few people in this eternity who do not deserve a second chance. You are one of them. I have a hard time believing all of this. No way can a person do 180 in a night after reading the comments on Reddit. This is very hard to believe. You showed your wife the comments on Reddit, which seems suspicious. Her deleting the account also seems suspicious. For your wife's, unborn children's, and your daughter's sake, I want to believe you have changed or are willing to change, but I find it difficult. If this is real, and this update makes me think it's not, this flip-switching 180 is actually terrifying. Dude goes from being absolutely indifferent to his wife to devoted, the same way he did with his once-a-year daughter, the one he had with a lady who skipped town as soon as she found out she was pregnant. Groom's dirty shirt is absolutely love-bombing.